Hi everyone, my name's Hazel and I'm an author and a PhD student, and today we are going to be talking about the Miraculous New York episode. I had a really bad day yesterday and then it came out towards the end of the night and I watched it and I have some things to say. It's not going to be a reaction, I've already seen it like I said. I've made a load of notes on it, like several pages of notes. So we're just going to go through it pretty much in chronological order. And just, it's essentially my opinion on how much I liked / disliked the episode, which I generally did like the majority of it. There were a few things here and there I didn't like, but you know, for the most part, I thought it was a great episode and I did really enjoy it. But if you're not here to hear my opinion about it, you want a reaction, I guess it is a reaction, but without the episode playing at the same time. That's not what this is going to be. It's going to be like a commentary on the episode, if you will, with I guess a bit of analysis with what it could mean for future Miraculous episodes. So if you're not here for a reaction and just want some commentary on Miraculous Ladybug, then you've come to the right place and let's get started. Okay, so we have much to discuss. First of all, the opening to the episode, as in like the opening credits. That was epic. I loved it. I wish the actual opening of the show was more like that. Obviously that would set a more dramatic tone for it, but I still thought it was pretty epic, you know? And as well, we got to see their new powers with the Cosmo Cat and whatever Ladybug's name was. That was so cool. I had in some of my previous videos, I did like a Miraculous Ladybug series for predictions. I really hoped that we would get to see, and we did get to see, at least 2 of the new transformations that gives them extra powers, which was so cool to pretty much open with it. I thought it was a really good, strong opening, and I do think this episode definitely got better as it went on, because they had an hour chunk. It wasn't just 20 minutes, they had a whole hour, so it definitely got better as the show went on. I thought it was great, but I did think it was great to open with the Akuma attack, but I would have liked to see all of it and how they actually solved it with the flying version of their Miraculouses. Now next. Okay, if you've seen any other of my Miraculous Ladybug videos, you will know I am like a hardcore Adrianette shipper. In any version of the Love Square. I'm not the biggest fan of Adrien, but I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. But Shat giving Ladybug the yellow rose, and I googled it to check, it really does symbolise friendship. Wasn't a fan of that.
That's so upsetting.
I just love them together so much. Just get together already, please. I was just so... It didn't upset me loads, but when I googled it to check, I was just like, oh. Like, I kind of want it to happen. One thing I kind of want is the reverse of the Love Square, where because Shat as Adrien is with Kagami, unfortunately, so obviously Shat starts pulling away from Ladybug in terms of romantic feelings and just starts to see her as a friend. And at that point, because he's not flirting with her all the time, Ladybug starts to see Shat as something more. So that means Marinette pulls away from Adrien at school, and then in turn Adrien sees Marinette more, so we get the full reverse of the Love Square. So I understand that in order for that to happen, Shat has to stop being himself, essentially. But didn't mean it didn't hurt me. Even though it's what I want, it still hurts, okay? However, that being said, Ladybug seemed to like the change of pace in that he was actually viewing her as a friend, which is good, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Did you like it? I could take it or leave it. I didn't really care either way. However, one of the most notable things in the episode, and we'll discuss it more as we get through the list of what happened, is that Marinette definitely quite obviously still likes Adrien, even at the start when she's just like, oh, we're just friends. And then she sees the poster and essentially spontaneously combusts on the spot. Like, she quite obviously still has feelings for Adrien, even if she's trying to deny that. And I really like this episode for the development of feelings and also a bit more development of character. There hasn't been a lot of character development in Miraculous, which I think is owing to the fact that it's a children's show. There usually isn't a lot of character development in children's shows. That's how they go. If this was for teenagers or even for adults, I would have expected there to be more of it and for it to have been done sooner rather than just in this one episode. So I definitely hope we get to see more of that. Though I do have a question, very important question. Why was the cast list for the puppet short film in Comic Sans? Who made that decision? Comic Sans is the worst font of them all. Why on earth did you pick Comic Sans? However, I would absolutely love to see like an episode on the making of that short film, as in the kids making it together, because their last short film in Horrificator was horrific. Sorry. But it looked legendary when like the socks were hugging at the end. Beautiful. And you know, I've seen Hamilton 3 times now, twice in person and once on Disney Plus, and I don't remember that happening in there, but I was very happy it did. They should do an entire sock version of Hamilton, can you imagine? I'd pay good money to see that. I mean, the tickets for Hamilton are extortionate as it is, but I would pay good money for the puppet version of Hamilton. Can you imagine? Oh, that would be like art in motion. It'd be beautiful. Let's get a puppet version of Hamilton, please. So next we come on to Natalie and Gabriel, and I was very happy to see that Natalie was pretty much the only person in the entire episode who was adhering to social distancing guidelines. She was, you know, Zoom calling her boss or FaceTiming in like perfect, and when Gabriel came in the room he was stood more than 2 meters apart from her. She was doing a fantastic job. We all know my opinion on Natalie. I think she's one of the best written characters in Miraculous, if not the best written character. She's not my favourite, but I do love her. And I'm assuming she was in bed because of the effects of the Peacock Miraculous, but they fixed it right now. Oh gosh, it feels like, no wait, it literally has been almost a year since I watched the last episodes. Yeah, it was because my novel came out and I didn't have the greatest novel debut day. Video on that. But another week after my novel came out, or like 2 weeks after, the series finale of Miraculous came out, and I cried silently in the university library on the silent floor because I'm not allowed to make any noise, whilst I watched the whole thing in, I think it was Ukrainian with English subtitles. So I didn't have a fun time that day, definitely not. However, I was wrong about the eagle talent. I had theorised it wasn't an actual Miraculous, turns out it was, so I've been wondering if there were different like animals, like different types of Miraculouses in the different miracle boxes. So there obviously is in this case, in that the miracle box in America has an eagle Miraculous. We'll get onto it at the end because obviously it happens at the end of the episode, but there does seem to be different Miraculouses in the miracle box that is shown. Oh my god though, when Marinette was talking to Gabriel and he was like, yeah, Adrien can go, and she came out, everyone was like, yes, yes! I just want everyone to start chanting like lads or something. Maybe it's just because I'm from the north of England and sometimes get this mob mentality about me, but I'm always like, lads, 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 like this is gonna sound really mean. So I'm autistic and I have some coordination difficulties sometimes with, so for example, the reason why I usually drink with a straw is because I have the tendency to try and drink something but then tip the cup before it's touched my mouth. I still haven't worked out yet that the cup needs to be touching my lips before the liquid will actually enter my mouth. I think what I'm thinking is that I'll get to here and it can just like leap in or something. No, that's not gonna happen. But I've walked into lampposts, I've walked into walls, I fall down the stairs about 4 times a year, not very fun. And when it gets icy, and I live in the north of England, it can get very icy. I fall over a lot and people usually laugh at me. So maybe that's not the case in France, but I was just expecting everyone to start chanting, but it's French, not English. So if the case of English, everyone would have been chanting for Marinette, probably would have lifted her in the air, thrown her up a few times. That's what we would have done if this had been set in Manchester or Liverpool. Oh, they should have a miracle box in Liverpool. Class trip to Liverpool. Yes, Liverpool's a great city. Not the most romantic city on earth, but no one's denying that. You know, like, all I've heard about New York is how dirty it is and how high the crime rates are. How is that romantic? Don't get me wrong, I love London and the rest of this awful country. However, I am not denying the sheer amount of knife crime we have. Like, it's just one of those things. I've never been to New York, but my perception of New York is not as one of the most romantic places on earth. My perception is that it's kind of dirty. Now, let's talk about the scene with Kagami and Adrien. Okay, first of all, I never want to see Kagami kiss Adrien. I don't know if it was a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of kiss, because it was just like a quick peck, it wasn't anything super passionate, or whether it was more of a French thing. They often greet people in France by kissing each other, but I think it's usually on the cheeks, rather than on the lips, even though it looked more like she kissed him here, between his nose and mouth, rather than here. Which was kind of funny. But just what she said to him was, I just found it so horrible. Like, okay, first of all, it fit with Kagami as a character, I'm not disputing that, because Kagami is also a horrible person in my mind. However, it was just horrible. Like, I've never had a serious boyfriend before, so I guess I don't know what it's like to be in a proper relationship. However, if my boyfriend said to me what Kagami said to Adrien, I would have finished the relationship right on the spot. That was horrible and on the verge of being emotionally abusive, emotionally manipulative. Like, for someone to say, I'm glad you're not spending a fun week in New York with some of your closest friends so you can get better at fencing. And then kiss him? Like, at the very least, if my boyfriend had done that to me, I'd push him away and like, you're not kissing me after just saying that to me.
Stop it. Get some help.
Is it in keeping with Kagami as her character? Yes. But why would Adrien want to go out with someone like that? I am firmly in the belief that Adrien is only with Kagami because, first of all, she looks like Ladybug slightly. She likes him back because Ladybug doesn't like him that way. And thirdly, she possesses Ladybug's confidence. However, she does not possess Ladybug's nice, kind, helpful personality. To me, Kagami is just horrible, and the Kagami we saw in this film was not at all similar to the Kagami we got in, was it Lovita? I don't know, the bit when they're in the ball pit on the roof of Chloe's hotel. I think they turned the pool into that ball pit, right? And she was acting really nice then. It's just really jarring. It's really hard to make my mind up on Kagami because I see all the comments on my other Miraculous videos saying, oh, Kagami's a lovely person. And I'm like, well, I wish the writers would make their mind up. Are they trying to make Kagami nice? Or are they trying to make her horrible? Because she keeps flip-flopping back and forth to being really nice to absolutely everybody but a bit closed off, which is fine. You can still be nice and closed off. That's kind of like me when I meet new people. I'm nice, but I don't like people getting too close immediately, which I don't think that's a bad thing. Then she reverts back to being really cold and mean to someone she supposedly has feelings for. I just don't get it, and it makes me dislike her so much. Like, if we take off the table Adrien and Marinette getting together, if this was a show about Adrien and Kagami and just them as friends and them getting together, I wouldn't watch it because of Kagami's personality and the way the writers write her. I just feel like the writers can't decide whether they want the viewers to root for Kagami and Adrien or root for them to break up, essentially. I don't know why they're making these decisions about them like the way they are, but I did not enjoy that scene. Adrien finished with her immediately. Please. Okay, then we move on to the scene with Ladybug and Shat when they're talking about her going away. And first of all, okay, so you're gonna leave Paris in the hands of Shat. I think it's a good decision. However, firstly, one of them leaving and telling the other one is, I see, the basis of a lot of Miraculous fanfictions. And I feel my friend said this, me and my friend were texting as we were watching it. She said a lot of the episode feels like a big Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. And she's kind of right. Some of the elements in it are kind of like fanficky, which made me like it even more because, as we all know, I love fanfiction. But it's the basis of quite a few Miraculous fanfictions I've seen. And also, so you leave Paris in Shat's hands. However, let's assume there was an Akuma attack, which there kind of sort of was, wasn't. How is he going to cleanse the Akuma? Is he just going to put it in a jar until you come back? There can't be any Miraculous Ladybug to repair the damage because, like she says later on, the Miraculous Ladybug is to repair everything from a specific Akuma. You're not going to be there for that specific Akuma, so you can't repair anything. So, I mean, technically based off that logic, you really shouldn't have gone. In my opinion. And this next bit made me laugh. It wasn't really anything the episode did, but it was when Gabriel was like talking to Natalie in the room where they were social distanced and he was stood by the window and she was in the bed and he was like, oh, I'm going to New York for some very special jewellery, and I was just sat there like, Gabriel Agreste is going to Tiffany's. He's gonna go and he's gonna get an engagement ring from Natalie. Oh, I really love Gabriel and Natalie. I think they're the cutest, and when he carried her last series, oh, my heart. As much as I love Adrien, I also love Gabriel and Natalie. Do they have a ship name? Gatterly? I hope it's not Gatterly. Nabriel. Nabriel's a nicer ship name. Let's go with Nabriel. I am a Nabriel, Adrienette's, whatever, is it DJ Wi-Fi? Whatever Nathaniel and Mark are, Julika and Rose and Ivan and Millen. I don't care about anyone else. Now the next part, Luca and Marinette. Firstly, mad props to Luca being able to ride a bike that fast. I can't ride a bike, but I am coming up to passing my driving test, hopefully. It's in December, I hope I can pass it. So first of all, well done Luca for being able to ride your bike that fast. I didn't know people could ride their bikes that fast to catch up with a commercial coach. Second of all, you also had another person on the bike and Marinette's massive suitcase. Like, well done. Like, wow. You will go above and beyond for her. It's obvious you like her. However, whilst it's obvious that Luca likes Marinette, I think it's also painfully obvious that Luca knows Marinette still likes Adrien. It's painfully obvious to anyone. And obviously when he said hopefully this trip will get you some clarity, he is 5,000% aware that Marinette still has feelings for him. He's not stupid. And it quite obviously when we see later on when she's chasing Adrien's car on the bike, she did get clarity, and the clarity is that she likes Adrien. So my prediction is that one of the Akuma victims this series is going to be Luca, and it's going to essentially all come to a head in his akumatization, another akumatization because he was akumatized last series as well, where he's just going to be like to Marinette, he's going to be like sick of being messed around and just say, do you like me or do you not? And she's going to be like, I'm sorry, I still have feelings for Adrien, and he'll probably get akumatized. I think that's what's going to happen, to be honest. However, then she kissed Luca, and I think that was definitely more of a somewhat of a friendly kiss. Like, do people in France kiss each other on the cheeks to say thank you? I don't know. I have been on holiday to France quite a lot of times, probably about 10 times in the past decade. So, and to different areas of France. I've been to Paris once. I primarily stay in the north of France, around the Somme area. However, I've been down towards the south of France near the border with Switzerland. So I've seen not loads of the country, but I've seen, you know, a good cross section of the country. And I've never actually seen anybody greet each other or say thank you to anyone with a kiss. They generally just say bonjour or salut and then move on with their lives. I've never actually seen anyone kiss. So I don't know, I'm not French, I don't live there, I haven't been there since 2 Novembers ago. So I'm not really sure what to make of it. Honestly, I'm just taking comfort in the fact that I know Adrien and Marinette are endgame, and that one day Luca and Kagami will be dead. It's just what I'm working with right now, okay? And also, surely to God, isn't Chloe like classed as a terrorist now? Should you really be letting her on the plane? Like, it's quite obvious that this episode does follow on from the series 3 finale because of the relationships between whatever's going on with Adrien and Marinette and Kagami and Luca. So it's obvious it does follow on. So what happened with Chloe did happen. So isn't she like on Interpol's watch list? I mean, I don't work for Interpol, but if I did, I'd put her on it, you know? I wouldn't let her get aboard a plane. Why would you? Right, okay, next. Surely to God, the suitcase Marinette has is too big to be a carry-on. Like, it's the only bag she brings. And I mean, I don't know, but if I was going on holiday to New York, I would take more than just a carry-on case. Maybe that classes me as like high maintenance or whatever, but I'd take a bit more than that. I'm like, oh my god, it's like that shouldn't be allowed on the carry-on part of the plane. It needs to go in the hull, I think it's a ship, the baggage storage, whatever's called under the plane, I don't know. But surely that's too big. It's huge. It's like the size of Marinette. Also the size of Marinette, that popcorn tub Mr. Damocles have. If you folded her up, you could fit her in it. It's huge. Who needs that much popcorn? I don't even like popcorn, so no one needs any. It's massive. But just in general, the pretty much entire plane scene up until the superheroes arrive was so cringy. However, I have to remember that this show is for children, and if I was the actual target group for it, I probably would have found this absolutely hilarious. I found it kind of embarrassing, kind of cute, but It's for children. I understand. But that didn't mean I still didn't find it embarrassing, but children would have found that funny. So I get it. Oh, and that bit was really, really cute when Marinette walks down the aisle and she sees Nino and Alia, Rose and Julika, and Ivan and Milan. Where was Mark? We could have had Mark with Nathaniel, except he wasn't invited. I love Mark. Mark, a cutie pie. Like, he could have even been at the start of the episode because we saw Luca and Kagami and they're not in their class either, but they were allowed to be in it. Even Lila was in it. I'm really thankful she wasn't in the rest of this because I think the writers realised we've got too much going on in this episode. There's no room for Lila, and I thought that was a sensible decision to make, to not have Lila in the episode. I was happy about that. So apart from, she has what, one line in the library? Yeah, good decision not to have her in the rest of it, I think. And I absolutely love the kind of more tender moment where Marinette and Adrien were watching the sunset together out of the plane window. It was so sweet, and Alia and Nino's like commentary on it I thought was great as well. Like, they just really understand, I think, this relationship. And like Nino was talking about Adrien like he's like a baby chicken getting out of his shell or whatever, and I think he was 100% right, because I think at this stage Adrien just only thinks he has feelings for Kagami, and he just can't see past Marinette as a friend, because everything in this episode just made it plainly obvious to me that Adrien really does have feelings for Marinette. He just doesn't know what to do about it. he just can't admit it to himself. And I just don't know why, to be honest. I don't understand why he can't. But I just thought that whole section with Alia and Nino watching them was really poignant, to be honest. Now the bit with the superheroes was amazing. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of superhero stuff, so it's kind of odd I like Miraculous so much. I'm not a big fan of the Marvel films. I think I've only seen Guardians of the Galaxy, and I watched half of the Avengers but turned it off because I was bored out of my mind. I'm not a big superhero fan, but I do feel like Ladybug and Chat Noir are a very different kind of superheroes to the Marvel superheroes. I only really like Spider-Man and then Batman, who is obviously DC, not Marvel. And Green Lantern, I know everyone hates that film, but I love it. But just, I hate like American superheroes. I don't know why, but I absolutely loved everyone in this episode, all the new heroes. I really, really liked them, and that whole section with the plane was amazing, but bless Mr. Damocles' little cotton socks. What a cutie pie. I love Mr. Damocles. He's so cute. I love him. However, I just do have something to say here about the writing, and I think it maybe comes down to either poor planning or just not knowing they'd have the opportunity to make an hour-long special of this ilk. But it is a bit jarring to suddenly learn that there are these superheroes in America. They have never, ever, I'm pretty sure, been mentioned before. I know there are Miraculous comics, so maybe they have been mentioned in the comics. I don't know, I've never read them. I don't even know where to go about reading them. But they've never been mentioned in the show, I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty sure they've never heard of them in the show before. So it is a little bit jarring to just suddenly be like, oh, and yet there are superheroes in America. Right, okay. So why couldn't those superheroes come and help defeat Hawkmoth? Why don't we have these American-style heroes in Paris? What's the difference? It's just a bit jarring to suddenly bring up something. However, again, we're considering this as a children's television programme. The children wouldn't notice something like that, but coming from a writer who is 24 years old, I'm trying to get past the fact that this isn't made for me. I understand that. However, it is just a bit like, oh, okay, there are superheroes in America now. So are we right to assume there are superheroes in every country? So if so, because America is kind of a far way to go to get some help, well, what about Switzerland? What about Spain? What about Belgium and Sweden and the rest of countries that are really near France? Do they have superheroes? Could they not help? I don't know, it's just a bit jarring. Or are the only superheroes in the world in America and in France? Is that it? Like, what's the distinction? Like, yeah, it was really cool to see all these superheroes, but what about the rest of the world? And if the rest of the world have them, why aren't they helping in Paris? It's more of like a continuity thing. Like I said, I don't think most children would care, But yeah, it just kind of jarred me a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, there are heroes now. But Aeon though, Aeon, she was probably my standout favourite in terms of the new characters, because there are quite a few new characters. My standout favourite. I have a soft spot for androids, so my novel, it's a science fiction novel, there are androids in it, and I think by far pretty much all the androids are my favourite characters. I really love writing for my androids in my novel. But Aeon, oh, she has my heart. She was the sweetest person, sweetest android ever. She also ships Adrianette, like she says they are made for each other. And she is correct. I mean, I think I would have liked it even if she hadn't had that view. She is just so sweet and wonderful. I love her power and her outfit, everything about her. I have zero bad things to say about her. I think she was genius, essentially. I would love to know how she works and if they could maybe have a character like that, because I've heard there's a theory that Adrien is an android, so is he meant to be similar? I don't know. Is that like a hint to it, or is she just an android because it was a really cool decision. Whoever came up with the character of Aeon and her personality and just everything about her deserves a promotion. I absolutely love her. I don't have a boyfriend, like I said, I'm not getting married, but if I was, I'd want her as my maid of honour, or I'd want her to, you know, lead the ceremony. If I was pregnant, I'd want her as my birthing partner. I'd make her both the godmum and goddad to my children. Like, I love her. Like, unconditionally at this point. I love her. Like, I don't care that much for the adults that were introduced, but Aeon, and I think they only said her name once. Is it Jess, the other girl? I'm not really sure. Well, I didn't like her as much as Aeon, but I still did really like her. But I would absolutely love to see them again, like come on a trip to Paris. That'd be so cool. Like, I can take or leave seeing the adults again. Like, great if we get to see them again. I won't cry if we don't see them again. But oh my gosh, I adore Aeon with all of my heart. I love her. She's wonderful. Protect her at all costs. And then next we have, was it Hot Dog Dan? Is that his name? Well, my friend was like, he's the best character in this, and I was like, was he like Mr. Banana? Because I love Mr. Banana. Also another one of my favourite characters in Miraculous. First is Adrien, second is Mark, third is Mr. Banana. I love Mr. Banana. And she was like, same energy, and I was like, you're incorrect, he doesn't have the same energy. He's not as strong as Mr. Banana. I also love Mr. Banana. I'd also want him to officiate my wedding. Along with Aeon. But I thought it was a really cool idea how they have superheroes for everything. But just a quick question, do these hot dogs have the same magical, apparently, power as Andre's ice cream back in Paris? If you eat one together, do you stay together, sort of thing? I don't know. But I thought it was quite clear that the people who write Miraculous have absolutely no idea how a hot dog works, because if you split a hot dog in half, unless you cut it with a knife, it's not clean in the middle, it's not a baguette. You probably could maybe do that with a baguette more cleanly, but not with a hot dog. So maybe none of the Miraculous writers have ever had a hot dog before. I think that was pretty clear from this episode. But then we have the section where they're dancing in front of the moon. That was probably one of the most fanfiction things in this episode, apart from like the Mr. Damocles bit. But I can't fault it because I love fanfiction. I write Miraculous fanfiction myself. But it was beautiful, and someone you are just friends with, for both of you, Adrien and Marinette, you would not dance with someone like that. I have never slow danced with, first of all, anyone in my life. But if one of my friends who I saw as just a friend was like, hey, do you want to slow dance? I'd be like, no, I don't want to slow dance with you. Because I'm not in love with you. Unlike Adrien and Marinette, who are in love with each other. It's fairly obvious what they feel for each other. It doesn't matter how much they deny it. They love each other. But then Marinette was shouting to Ali the next day, it was just a friendly dance. Oh yes, a friendly dance. Slow dancing with a boy you're in love with. Very, very friendly. But next, oh my gosh, the gorilla. He also has my heart. Aeon, Mr. Banana, Mark, Adrien, and the gorilla / Adrien's bodyguard. I don't know what to call her, he doesn't actually have a name. I want them all to officiate my wedding, and they are my godparent candidates. But I also want them to read eulogies at my funeral. I love these guys. These 5 characters I will take to the grave with me. But oh, it was just so sweet, like, because obviously he's like this big, like, gruff man who, like, only grunts, and he's just sat there. Image of serenity, learning how to be a cloud and a dolphin. What a cutie, I love the gorilla. Then we have the slightly questionable bit where Aeon and Jess, again, I don't actually know her name because she only like said it once in the episode, so I'm not sure. But the bit with like Ali and Nino, you should get Adrien and Marinette in this room and we'll pretend that, and we'll bring a supervillain that only attacks people who aren't loved. Like, that's a bit drastic. But even I would do that in my fanfictions. I'd probably do something a lot worse than that. But I was like, that was, in terms of a writer, that was a very odd plot point. I understand you had to get them alone together. So why didn't you just have Alia ask Marinette to go take the picture and just have Nino ask Adrien to go look for his headphones and pretend they really did lose them? Like, why didn't you just do that?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Then you could have still had the scene without Solitude and it would have been more plausible. So they could have gone into the room separately, seen each other, had a nice tender moment talking, maybe some conversation with Marinette where she's not a blushing mess, and then the door's shut and the what was he called? The supervillain in the episode? Pyrotechnic or something? Oh, I'm not sure that's the right name. They could have just done that. They didn't need this. I don't think they needed to do this Solitude thing, and it's a bit of a long-winded way to get them in that room together. You could have just sent them in there with Alia and Nino's original request without the added lying underneath, you know? However, I must say that whole fight in the museum, it was so much cooler. So I think there have been 2 episodes, I could be wrong, 2 episodes where there's been an Akuma attack at the Louvre in Paris, which I'm pretty sure were Copycat and Pharaoh. And neither of those fights between them were anywhere near as cool as what happened in the museum. I thought it absolutely epic. It was great. However, I am a bit like unsure about this. So obviously at the same time when this fight is going on, Adrien finds out there's what he thinks is an Akuma attack but turns out is a senti monster. So I feel like that was done so that no one knew Hawkmoth was in Paris. They didn't think Pyrotechnic, I'm just going to call him Pyrotechnic even if their name's wrong, but so no one thought that Hawkmoth had akumatized him because Hawkmoth would be in Paris, he's not here. So I get that. However, it seemed to ultimately fall through since Hawkmoth ended up revealing himself anyway. So it was just like, okay, well, what was the point in that? Don't know. However, at the same time, Natalie would have still had to have used the Peacock Miraculous in order to create the Senti monster. But using the Peacock Miraculous makes her ill, which is what she was in bed with at the start of the episode when we saw her. So why would... Because I do feel like Gabriel, whether he has romantic feelings for Natalie or not, I do feel like he obviously cares somewhat for Natalie. Whether he's in love with her is a different argument, but he obviously does care about her to let his assistant chill in bed in his mansion. Obviously he does. But then why would he put her health in danger to do this unless he really did repair the Miraculous? I don't know. I feel like maybe when the rest of the series starts, because this was technically more of a short film rather than an episode, but I feel like the new proper series with the 20-minute normal length episodes should probably kick off with them talking about the Peacock Miraculous, seeing it being used, seeing the effects it has on Natalie. I think that'd just be a good way to go to follow on from what happened essentially. Also, just another point in general about the things that were kind of jarring. I absolutely love Ladybug and Chat Noir's costumes. I think they're kind of in keeping with French style, where it's kind of the more less is more. I don't know a great deal about French style, but you know, like I said, I've been to France a lot. It's definitely more pared back and less complex than other countries I've been to. I mean, I live in England, I'm English. Not that it gets really complex here, most people are very lazy, but I think their costumes are in keeping with the French style, and the same goes for all the other superhero costumes we've seen from the other Miraculous users. but at the same time I feel like all the American superhero costumes kind of put Ladybug and Chat Noir's costumes kind of to shame, you know what I mean? They were just so very, very basic. Well, there's anything wrong with having a basic costume, but they were so basic and it was just like, oh. Like, everyone looks so cool, so cool, especially Aeon and Jess in their costumes. Sorry, the cat's come back, but in comparison to Aeon and Jess in their costumes, like, Ladybug and Chat were just like, oh, in comparison, you know, like, they just kind of paled in comparison. However, that's not to say I don't still like Ladybug and Chat's costumes. I really still like them. But seeing them next to these really cool American costumes was like, yours are kind of boring in comparison, but yeah, I still like them. It's not that big of a point. But the Cataclysm part of the episode, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, we actually got to see like the full extent of the power of destruction in the ring in Plague. I don't know where it's like kind of stored. I guess it's like it's in Plague and the ring is the medium which it's used through. But seeing the full stretch of it, like I've seen it twice before, so I've seen it in Chat Blanc and then was it Style Queen, where Adrien gets turned golden and Plague just tries to use the power himself. Like, those were funny episodes. But wow, it really blew me away. I think maybe it was a bit too much for a children's show. I think some of these things kind of pushed the boundaries of what they should have been able to do with a children's television show. Because I know this would be classed as fantasy violence, which is very different to normal violence. So for example, when Hawkmoth and Ladybug both threw Chat Noir and Mayor off the Arc de Triomphe, that's very, very, very different to actual violence because it's classed as fantasy violence, so they can get away with it for children. But I feel like that might have gone a bit too far for a children's show. Like, I enjoyed it because I'm 24 and not 8, but might have gone a bit too far. But then the bit, I found this really funny. Maybe it's just because I like Mean Girls. But when Gabriel picked up Pyrotechnic, he was like, get in, and I was like, get in, loser, we're going shopping. That made me laugh far, far much more than it should have. Now we're moving on to the sewer scene, and now the sewers are awfully similar in America and in Paris. I'm just saying, very, very similar. However, that whole scene with Adrien renouncing Plague, and just like Ladybug talking about the Miraculous Ladybug and how it works, I was just like, I had no thoughts, my mind just went blank. I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. That was dramatic, and Marinette's reaction to it was just so sad. Oh god, oh, it hurt me. But then I hadn't recovered from it, but a couple of scenes later when Adrien and Marinette come back to like the hotel, the hostel they're all staying in, and Alia just kind of screams at Marinette. What does she say? I have the quote on my phone. It doesn't matter what I expected you to do. Who's Adrien to you? A friend or more than a friend? There'll never be a better time to be clear with yourself, Marinette. And I just thought that whole section, especially when Marinette gets on the bike and she's like, okay, I've got my clarity. Adrien is the one I'm in love with. Not Luca, not anyone else. Adrien is the one I want. And I just feel like Adrien quite obviously also is in love with Marinette in that scene, because he's not looking at the rest of the class. Like, I'm pretty sure the rest of the class was still at the top of the steps watching them. And the only person Adrien is looking at isn't Marinette. He doesn't care what the rest of his class think about him leaving. He only cares what Marinette thinks about him going. And when she doesn't say stay, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go then. Like, that whole thing just broke my heart, and like the atmosphere around me was just silent. I just paused it and I took a minute and I was like,
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Wishima? Like, I was just blown away by it. I thought it was absolutely beautifully done before. I also think the animation in this episode looked really good. I know nothing about animation, but I thought it looked really good. It was just definite confirmation Marinette is still in love with Adrien. And to me it was also confirmation that Adrien feels something for her. Because if he didn't, he would have looked to the rest of the class and asked them if he should obey his father's orders. He only cares what Marinette thinks. So it was just confirmation to me. I don't care if you don't agree with me. Also, the next thing, I thought the use of the skateboard by Sparrow, I think that her superhero name was, I thought was amazing. Like Ladybug uses her yo-yo all the time and Shat with his baton, but her like use of the skateboard, or like the animators' use of the skateboard and the storyboarders, I thought was amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So as much as I'm glad at the end of the episode that Jess was given the Eagle Miraculous, I really wanted to see that more of that skateboard stuff. Why couldn't the Eagle Miraculous had a skateboard? Like, I think Lafayette would have absolutely rocked a skateboard. Why didn't they give him a skateboard? Then the next part is obviously when Marinette's wandering around New York on her own, like, I'm so sad, I don't have Shat anymore, and she's just looking at the ring and she has Plag in her bag. Then Aeon comes and she's like, I know you're Ladybug, right? First of all, their reactions between this, Marinette's like, no, I'm not Ladybug, I don't know her. Who's Ladybug? Never heard of her. Whereas when Aeon goes to Adrien, he's just like, here I am him. What can you do about it? He wasn't under any pressure whatsoever and he was just like, yep, that's me. Come on. Like, come on, like if he ever gets interrogated by Hawkman, it's like, well, Adrian's first to go, then we're gonna find out his identity straight away, but Marinette will have a bit more staying power before she reveals who she is. It was kind of funny. However, I do have to add, why on earth would Marinette trust Aeon with Shat's ring? Marinette and Adrien are protective of the Miraculouses, apart from this episode when he renounced Plag, which is a bit of a different story, but they're not supposed to let anyone else get their hands on their Miraculouses. So why did she willingly give it to Aeon? She could have, like, for all Marinette knew, Aeon could have been working for Hawkmoth. Like, why did she trust Aeon so easily? I mean, I already trust Aeon with my life, but why does Marinette trust Aeon? That's the question. Like, she has been told by Master Fu not to let anyone get their hands on these Miraculouses and she has to take care of the Miracle Box, which by the way, what was she doing to protect that while she was in New York? Because she got some sort of nifty security system in her bedroom that makes sure no one can get it? I don't know. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting point. Like, I'm pretty sure if Alia was like, oh well, I'm going to take this ring to Adrien, I'm pretty sure Marinette wouldn't even trust Alia with it, so why would she trust Aeon when she's literally known her a day? 2 days? I don't know. Like, why would she? But also that part when Aeon plays what Ladybug had, well, what Marinette had said about Shat/Adrien, I can't imagine being Ladybug without him. I have no words to communicate how I feel about that. It was beautiful. Like, I loved it. And I also thought it was really, really cool. There was a change in music for Chat Noir's transformation, like the renewed transformation after renouncing your Kwame. And I kind of wanted to see that for Marinette. I wanted like Aeon to really hype up Marinette, and then we could have also got like the change in music, but that didn't happen, which I was kind of sad about. But like it's not like a deal breaker for me hating the episode because Marinette's music didn't change when she transformed. Then the next bit, I have some mixed feelings on it. So there was obviously, so they had to get to the Statue of Liberty, and there was some good foreshadowing with that key and the guy with the doors, because the place where the key was where we saw at the start of the episode, but I'm not really sure children would have got it. So I remembered the opening of the episode, I remember the bit in the museum where he said about the key, and then I remember this part as well at the end. But I'm 24 and I only really just got it. It wasn't abundantly clear because it wasn't really brought up enough, and that's the kind of problem with foreshadowing that you risk. So if you bring it up too much, it becomes too obvious. If you don't bring it up enough, it just comes off as a bit odd, like, oh, okay, I vaguely remember that, but it's not super obvious. Foreshadowing is something kind of hard to get right. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But I don't think they quite pulled it off with those keys for the Statue of Liberty, unfortunately. But I thought it was a good plot and it brought together the opening of the episode, because otherwise that very opening part with the Akuma attack, I guess, is kind of just superficial without it. But I still thought it was a really good way to open up the episode. I didn't necessarily think you had to, I don't necessarily think they needed to have foreshadowed back to it, in my opinion. I definitely think at the very least they should have made it clear that where they were when they returned that book was also where their keys were. And maybe it's just because I'm not French, maybe it's just a French thing, or people who know a lot about French history would know those keys are there, but I am not one of those people, and unless you are probably a child in France, I would imagine most children don't know about it. either. So yeah, it was a bit of a odd thing, really. And then the next kind of thing, this is where there was kind of a bit of a few plot holes here. Hawkmoth planned this whole attack in New York kind of based around the fact that he knew Ladybug and Chat Noir were going to be there. But he didn't know they were going to be there. Doesn't come across one bit surprised when they show up. He is not surprised in the least. If I was a supervillain and I'd gone to New York to do something like this and then my nemesis show up, I'd be thinking to myself, well, which people from France have recently just come here? And the answer would be my son's high school class. At least 2 of them have to be Ladybug and Chat Noir. That would be the conclusion I would draw. And you know, as much as we can go on all day about Adrien and Marinette being stupid and not realising the other one is their superhero counterpart, they are still arguably children. They're only about 14 years old, so we can kind of write them off as being a bit stupid. But Gabriel Agreste is a grown man. He should be able to draw that connection. And even if he doesn't draw that connection, he should be at the very least surprised when they show up in New York and not Paris. He based Natalie creating that Senti monster entirely around his prediction that Ladybug and Chat Noir wouldn't be there to save it. So why? It's kind of a plot hole that's jarring me because Hawkmoth wasn't in the least bit surprised. Did I miss it? Maybe the version of the episode I watched just simply didn't have it in for copyright reasons. But I don't know. Does anyone else see it? Did he actually explain his surprise? Because the episode I saw, he was pretty chill about it. He didn't care they were there. He was just like, give me a Miraculous. Again. Yeah, it was kind of odd. And then the other kind of like, well, it's not an odd thing, it's just something I'm curious about, are the other lost Miraculouses. Like, are we just gonna disregard about the other miracle boxes that are in the temple in Tibet? Are we just forgetting about that? Because there's still all those other miracle boxes. Why don't you just go to where you know the other miracle boxes are? Why don't you just do that instead of trying to find a load of Miraculouses that are lost? Surely to God it's just easier to go to Tibet than travel around to different countries and try and find the Miraculouses there. Like, why? I don't know. But also I was a bit confused about the origin of the powers that the American superheroes had. So obviously not the Miraculous that Jess gets the Eagle Miraculous, which I thought was a really cool Miraculous. Not really sure. I'm a bit confused about the power. Like, I understand freedom because America is like the land of the free. I get that. I did think it was kind of like an odd power, and I'm not really sure how Lafayette could have possibly used that in battle to help win the war. I'm not really sure on that exactly. Maybe just because I don't know enough about American history. But it just seemed a bit odd. But apart from the Miraculous, so the Miraculous is obviously where he gets the power from, where did the power lie for the other superheroes? Can anyone be superheroes? I'm a bit skeptical about that. I don't quite understand it. And then also, so at the end where Aeon, Jess, Ladybug and Shat are all together, Shat's in his cosmic cat suit, whatever. Why doesn't Ladybug question where he's flying off to? Like, I don't know. Like, surely to God they've worked out who each other are now. Like, oh, they are the stupidest people on the planet. I can't deal with them anymore. As my grandma used to say, I'm finished with you. I've washed my hands with you. Okay, so then we have the very, very end of the episode. So I thought that bit with the men in the car was really cool and mysterious. And the man who got out with the fan, he did come across as Asian. However, I am not the best at recognising what race people are. Whether it's in real life or in a cartoon, I have a bit of an issue with it. It's not really it's not like a problem I have, it's just I can't usually tell where you're from just by looking at your face. It's just the way it is. So I'm not sure if he was Asian, but the only reason I'm saying this is because was this like a foreshadowing towards the Shanghai special? Does he have something to do with that? They like zoomed in on him. If they weren't going to do anything with him, they would have just shown these men getting out of the car. So they were obviously going to do something. So this guy is obviously important. Maybe not the other 3, but this guy who got out with the fan and we saw a close-up of his face is obviously important somehow, some way. As for the guy who came with the miracle box, at first I was like, ooh, okay, is this like setting up for like a spin-off show where it's just about superheroes in America? However, after a bit more thought, like I said, I watched this last night and it's now 10:30 in the morning the day after. I'm just like, I'm not 100% sure if I trust that guy. Maybe, like I said, I am autistic and I do have a lot of trouble recognizing facial expressions on cartoon characters. I'm okay with real life faces, I can usually recognize emotions, but on cartoon faces, I'm not always sure. So I can't really work out now if that guy was happy and intrigued by Jess's proposal, or there was something more sinister going on. You'll have to clarify to me in the comments what you thought of his facial expression, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, if he was a good person or a bad person, because it did come across as kind of like a sinister smile to me, so I'm not sure what to think of it. And then as a final point for in the episode, I would love absolutely every single episode to end with some meditation from the gorilla. Like, I mean, Adrien did leave him behind in New York, which was kind of funny, but bless his soul, bless his socks, bless it, just bless him. Oh, he's so cute. I want every single episode to end with some meditation from the gorilla. It'd be so cute. But that was pretty much the whole episode. I just want to quickly discuss a couple of other things that are like maybe repercussions for in the future. First of all, there seemed to be kind of backlash from Nadia when she said Ladybug and Chat Noir hadn't turned up, and obviously Marinette couldn't have repaired the damage with the Miraculous Ladybug because she wasn't there for that Akuma attack. So when they return to Paris in the series, are we going to see some kind of backlash? So when I said before I don't really like superhero films, I do kind of like Spider-Man, and I've only ever seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, where Tobey Maguire plays Spider-Man. And in those films, the police don't like Spider-Man. I never 100% got it, but when they returned to Paris, even though Nadia was like, it was okay they went here because they were helping with the attack in America. So it was kind of light-hearted. But are there going to be some people now, like the people in the area of Paris that was destroyed? Are there going to be some people now who don't like Ladybug and Chat Noir anymore? Is there going to be some backlash? Because if there is, I think that's going to add a really interesting tone and layer to the show if there is. Be really cool to see. But like I said, it's a children's show, so might not happen, but I thought it was interesting. Now, as for the relationships in this episode, and I am specifically talking about Adrien and Kagami and Marinette and Luca. Now, I've thought about it some more, and when I watched the episode, I was really happy in the moment to see that Nino and Alia were still like trying to push them together. However, I guess it's a little bit bittersweet and kind of promotes cheating to children. This is a thing with children's television. The purpose of children's television often is to teach them something, whether it's about a certain kind of job, like for example when I grew up there was a show on called Fireman Sam, which was about being a fireman. There was another one called Postman Pat, which was about being a postman. It was kind of to show you the different job roles open to you, sort of. And also children's television just kind of shows you how to be a nice person, like don't lie, don't cheat on your boyfriend or your girlfriend. So I think you could definitely argue that what Nino and Alia were doing would be promoting cheating. Now, it may or may not. What happened when we saw the kisses between the different couples at the start of the episode, it didn't look like a super serious, passionate kiss. It looked more of a friendly kiss. So I'm not sure, maybe it's just because I'm not French, but I'm not sure what to make of it, so I don't know whether to say for certain that Adrien is with Kagami and Marinette definitely is with Luca, despite their feelings for each other, whether or not they'll admit them. So I am really torn between it, because I know they feel something for each other, whether Adrien will admit to it or not. I know they feel something for each other, but whether or not Alia and Nino should have done what they did, I'm really not sure, I'll be honest. So yeah. However, I do think this sets an interesting precedent for the rest of the series and how the relationships and characters are going to develop. I think we saw some interesting character development from both Adrien and Marinette, which I was really happy with. But I think in order for Adrien to start being able to see Marinette as something more than a friend, is for her to be able to stop blushing and stuttering around him and have a nice normal conversation with him, like the way Ladybug would do. There kind of needs to be more. I said this in my theories video, but I feel like both Adrien and Marinette's true personalities lie somewhere between who they are as a civilian and who they are as a superhero. So Ladybug is uber confident, Chat Noir is very flirtatious, whereas Adrien is kind and rather quiet, whereas Marinette is also very kind and very clumsy. I feel their personalities lie halfway in between their civilian identity and their superhero identity. So I think it was a really good episode for character development, and I'm excited to see where it's hopefully gonna go. I know the episodes are only 20 minutes long, there's not often a lot of room for character development, but it's okay. You don't have to have loads of character development in every single episode. It can just be, you know, a tiny bit, you know? Okay, so the last things in the video, I've decided, because when the new series starts I want to do videos like this, like a commentary on each episode. We're gonna have an MVP, most valued player, or I guess most valued character of the episode, and also quote of the episode, okay? So the nominees I have for the MVP are Adrien's bodyguard for his meditation messages. Second, we have Plank for his wiggly arms in Adrien's bedroom before they went to New York. Third, we have Aeon, because I feel like I've already explained why Aeon is an MVP in this episode. And fourth, we have Alia because of what she said to Marinette when Adrien was leaving. And my friend also wanted Hot Dog Dan in there, but he literally did nothing. I'm sorry, my friend. I cannot put Hot Dog Dan in there. I can't do it. So out of those four, I think the MVP of this episode was the bodyguard. Oh, it was hilarious and it was so cute at the same time. It really melted my heart. Most of this episode melted my heart because my heart is as cold as ice. It's freezing. but I will say honourable mention for Aeon because I thought she was brilliant. Like I said before, I don't care if I never see the new adults from this episode ever again, but I will personally fight Thomas Astruc if I don't get to see Aeon again. Like, I'm not having it. She's coming back. Please. I love her so much. So the bodyguard is the MVP with special mention of Aeon, but it was a close call between the two of them. But he just, the gorilla, he had something more, just a bit more, but he had it in the bag. Okay, so for quotes of the episode, I have a couple of them picked out. So first of all, Adrien, you're our sock Washington. Beautiful. See any supervillains in the house like Plague? I saw what you were doing. Well, more of heard. I heard what you were doing there. I see, because there was a supervillain in the house. Well, technically two, if we count Mia as a supervillain. The little croissants are en route. I love that line so much that after I finished watching the episode, in my Facebook group chat with my friends, I changed my name to the little croissants. I don't even like croissants that much. The only way I like to eat croissants is to break them in half down the middle and smother more butter on the inside, then close it back together and eat it like a sandwich. It's the only way I like croissants. Aeon's line, perfection, protect the tourists and their socks. Beautiful. And of course we have the line, I couldn't imagine being Ladybug without him. But I do think the standout best line from this episode was, the little croissants are en route. Peak writing. Overall, I did think this episode was really good. There were a couple of problems, like with the way Hawkmoth kind of prepared for Ladybug and Chat Noir not being in Paris. Like, how did you know? You didn't. You weren't surprised in the slightest when they showed up, so what? I didn't really understand that. I'm a bit confused about where the American superheroes get their powers from and how the Miraculous box will work. Like, is there going to be a huge difference between the American heroes who use the Miraculouses and the other American heroes? And just the jarring in general of there are now suddenly American heroes that no one's ever mentioned before. Are they in other countries and why aren't they helping defeat Hawkmoth? So yeah, but other than that, I love this episode. It went from strength to strength. It got so much better as the episode went on. I thought it was spectacular with the superheroes, which is weird coming from me since I don't really like superheroes, so I don't really even know why I like Miraculous to begin with, I'll be honest. But I am really, really excited what the next series has got in store for Miraculous. I am hyped. I'm so excited, and I'm also excited to film more of these. I've had really fun filming this morning. So yeah, main takeaways from this. I thought it was a great episode, a great first episode back after the absolute trauma the series 3 finale caused me. I'm not exaggerating, I was traumatised for about a month. It made me so sad. Like, oh god. Like, oh gosh. Where was Mark? Chloe was just... Why was she even there? She was a terrorist. She shouldn't have been allowed on the trip. And finally, Adrien is in love with Marinette, and no, I won't be taking any constructive criticism on that. I'm correct, I don't care what you think. But with that being said, that is the end of the video. I really enjoyed filming this. Please let me know down below what do you agree with me on, what do you disagree with me on. But if you're here to disagree with me about Adrien Kagami, I don't want to hear it. Sorry, I'm a hardcore Adrien shipper. I don't care what anyone thinks about it. But that is all for now, and I will see you all next time. Bye!